day 8 last day. I got up at 3, got rolling about 4, and covered about 11 kilometers by the time I would normally have started at 7:30. So that's 1/3 the day done already. Working hard. Let's get it all done today if possible. Alright, this way I believe. So all of Lane Cove National Park I did in the dark this morning, but oh, it was slow. The track is so rough. Last thing my feet needed. They were super upset with that. Now this is more mossy peaty sort of ground. It's not too bad, it's pretty good. So about 20 k's to go. Get myself home, showered, see my puppies, and that'll be that. Catch you later. is a better way. Whoa. G'day. Obviously this is not the end of day 8. This is about a month later. There was a bit of a rush. Day 8 was pretty fast, so I didn't really get a chance to do an outro with all the traveling I had to do to get back home, so I thought it'd be good to do an outro now and also give you
a bit more feedback on the overall run of the trail. So day 8 I got up at 3, was on trail by 4, was through the main part of the Lane Cove National Park pretty much by about 11, I guess. I was through. I was trying to beat the rain, and I guess I would have been maybe, I was about an hour, so I was about 2.5, 3 k's from Woolwich Wharf. When I met a guy who it was just starting, he was coming the other way, so he'd just been off the ferry for about an hour. I met him, we had a bit of a chat, and I told him about the latest conditions that I'd seen, and he told me about, you know, what his expectations were. So we had a chat for a while, and that's sort of, I guess that was about half hour, so I got a bit caught out, and I guess the last kilometre was in storms and rain. So by the time I got to Woolwich Wharf and sat there on the bouncing windswept wharf, it was pretty cold. So, and that was about 12, I guess I got there. The ferry ride generally took about 45-50 minutes, and then it was just a 5-minute walk to the park for the ending of the walk. I pushed really hard. I was doing 9-minute kilometers, so I was pushing really quickly there and trying to get the day done, to try and beat the rain, which I had got close to. So my filming was just slight more interesting parts of the trail. There was a lot of boring stuff, and towards the end you were in the city, so I mean there was nothing of interest to film there. You're in the city, car noises, and it's just, you know, you see that every day anyway. So the stuff that you'll see is a bit at the front. I have to apologise for, there's a little light fracture in the middle of the screen. Somewhere, I guess early that morning, the screen protector I had on the camera got a crack in it in the middle. I must have hit it somewhere, so that fracture you're seeing is going to be a little crack that's in the middle of the screen. That's all rectified now, as you can see. There's no light fracture, so it's, yeah, but that's there, so you'll notice it and you'll see it. It was alright. It was fast. I had, you know, I really just wanted to get it done. My feet had enough for the week. 8 days is pretty tough to push that track that quickly. So I did the track. It was about 270 k's, and I did it in about 8 days. I think that's too quick, but that's the amount of time I had to do it. So my hand was forced a bit in that respect. I think doubling that, you know, 14 to 16 days is probably perfect, because I think especially the north end is built more with terrain aspects, more around 18 to 20k days. I think you would do it better, whereas I was doing 35 to 45 kilometer days to get down as quick as I could, and that was heavy. That was heavy. I mean, day 3 was only 35 k's, yet it was a 13 to 14 hour day. I mean, that's big. There was so much vertical elevation that day that, you know, that's heavy. So if you cut that in half, that's probably more what you'd be looking at and would be easier. The wear and tear on my feet would have been way less in that respect. So, you know, food for thought for people who are trying to do it. Maybe just don't do it in 8. Just give yourself, you know, a few more days at least to do it. So it'll probably make it more enjoyable, not so hard pushing. You know, you'll be stuck in the leech zone a bit longer though. That's the only downside as far as I see it, because the leeches were off the charts for the first 4 days of this walk. Last 4 days I didn't see a leech, which was great. Probably the biggest aspect of this track was the lack of water. Water was really tough to do. I carried a 1 litre bottle in my side pack, and I carried a 700ml on my shoulder, which you'll see in the videos. That was my electrolyte bottle. The other one was just plain water, and I carried a 2 litre bladder for dirty water for me to filter with. And twice I had to use that bladder with water in it to take it to a site that didn't have water, and it was a good 10 k's of camelling that water to the next part. It was really inconsistent. Coming out of Newcastle, there's warning signs everywhere telling you do not drink the water in the creeks, and that's fair enough. In Newcastle, you just don't touch any of the water in any of the waterways. Just don't do it. It'd be polluted like nothing else, and no filter's going to help you there. So then you need to find taps and whatnot, and really the only tap we found was at the 18k mark. At the hotel there at Bunkerville, I believe there's a tap at the service station, but you know, at 8:30 at night we couldn't find it, and my brain capacity was not there, so it was tough for water. You'd have to buy it. There were shops along the way where you have to go and buy it, but that sort of is not the purpose of the whole thing, so that was tough. And I don't think there's much they can do there in national park wise, so that's fine. But after that, there was a tank at Heaton Lookout, but it's locked, so you can't get water from it, totally defeating the purpose of it. So there's nothing until you get down into the bottom of the gullies there, and that's the first water you find flowing, and that's about the 50k to 60k mark. You cross a lot of creeks, you're forever up and down valleys, winding around in a really small area, just in and out, and there's water in that 50 to 60k zone. But then you come out, and then there's no water again. You do not cross a stream or anything for the rest of that walk, and that would be then from the 60 to 80k zone. There's nothing, not until the campsite as you come off the escarpment there, and it's a really dirty, horrible tank of water. Worst tank water I've come across like ever. So then on the third day, apart from the tank water when you first are going, if you camp there, you don't see water again until up the top. You'll go along a dirt road that accesses farmland, then you turn off, and there's no stream or anything there that's carrying water. They would be dry streams all the time until you got up to the top. Up there, then there is about 3k's after you get to the top of the escarpment, then there is what they call those hiker rest areas, which are just a 2 by 2 meter roof. That's all it is, nothing else, with a tank on the side. And I found they were the best sources, but they are so few and far between. The next one after that was another 20 kilometers away, which is the one that I camped at the end of the third night. But there's nothing in between that. So me looking back at it now, the litre and the 750ml wasn't enough. I would, if I was doing it again, I would carry another litre bottle and have, you know, effectively 2.5 litres on me at all the time. Quite often I was underwatered and getting to camp with just enough water to hydrate meals, with nothing to drink myself for that night and the next morning, until I could get to another water source the next day. And that was repeated day in, day out, the whole way until the end. Coming through the Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park, campsites there had no water, but that was a theme everywhere. No campsites had water tanks effectively. But there, then coming in through Hornsby and all those places there, the water's polluted. It smelt like the overflow from your or the grey water coming out of your washing machine. That's what it smelled like. You could smell the detergent in the water, and there were signs saying you couldn't do it. So for a whole stretch there, that's 40 kilometres of stretch in the Hornsby area, is non-drinkable. You can't filter that water, you can't boil that water, it's useless to you. So how do you get your water again? You have to find taps. Thornley Oval was the only place for that whole day that I could get water. I mean, you could get water at Galston Gorge underneath the bridge there, but I did because I was caught and I had to have water. But that was at the end near, or where they were talking about the water not being usable. So I mean, I took a chance, and you shouldn't have to take a chance there. There should be, at the rest areas, water tanks that you can access to get water all the time, and that just isn't there on this track at the moment. So that makes it tough. So I mean, that last stretch through Hornsby, I was stuck until I could get to Thornley and find a tap at a sporting oval. That was it. And then coming out of there again the next day, which is the last day, I fill up my bottles at Hornsby, at Thornley, and there's nothing. After that, there is nothing. All the water you can't touch in the national park. You have to wait until you get into town, and then you're looking to buy water. There's no tanks or anything in the national park that you can access. Now I know that, yeah, look, you probably can't have them because they can be vandalized. Fair enough, but just for your own information, you're gonna have to carry more than what you think you need to carry. People with a big 3-litre bladder in their back, that's probably okay. I don't like the bladders, so that makes it a bit different for me. I'll probably have to just carry extra litre water bottle, and I would have been fine. But that's something to think about. Blowdowns was a big problem on this track, especially through the middle part. I think one of my days there was 20 blowdowns, and some of them were big gum trees, which, you know, when they're laying over, they are still taller than I am, so you can't go under them, you can't climb over them. You've got to go up around the root base, which could be up a face, to get up around and come back down the other side, which can take you 10-15 minutes to have effectively travelled 2 meters of the trail to go up and around. And and that happened quite a lot through the middle part of the trail. So there was a bit there that needed work. Hopefully they get to clear that up soon enough, that then that frees the trail up a bit better, because that did make that part of the trail, which was like my 4th day, would have been it was a very slow day. So but there was just a lot of that sort of thing that you had to cover and work your way around. So that was tough. So another thing to look at are the campsites, and the campsites along here generally weren't crash hot. If you look at campsites strictly, only some had running water in a stream alongside, and those ones, for me, when I was going along, were flooded. So of course they were so close to a stream and they were flat, they were holding water. So, you know, there'd be 20 mil of water sitting there everywhere. So I mean, you could not put a tent down in those sorts of areas, and that was at about 3 or 4 sites during my walk. The ones that weren't along streams didn't have water. A couple had toilets, but you know, I'll take water over a toilet any day. And some of the toilet places that they had there are really big and have the roof capacity to have a tank on the side and keep it topped up. So that's something that I think they should have had done. But some of the sites are horrible. you know, it was a clearing just enough to put a tent on, and it wasn't a flat area, and the grass was high in those areas, so you know, it's like, you know, some of it was knee high, and it's like it's going to be hard to tent in that sort of area, so their maintenance wasn't very crash hot when I went. So for me, the best campsites I went to were just the rest areas, just their little hikers rest with the roof and a tank on the side. I mean, some of the areas weren't flat, but they carried water, which was my essential, and I could then deal with a slightly awkward footing for my tent and just be done with it, knowing full well I had water there. So that's they're strictly not campsites, but I found they were the best ones to use as I went along. And you'll see a lot more of those in the northern section than you do in the southern section. The southern section almost non-existent for that style of rest stop. So yeah, so overall, you know, I was pretty buggered by the end of 8 days. It was tough, and I was ready to be done with 8 days. If it had been longer, I think I would have had a more relaxed time doing it, and then I would have been fine with a longer time frame. But 8 days short meant that the 8th day I was getting pretty done. But looking back, you know, it's a month later now. Looking back, you know, I mean, just thinking about it's got me excited to, you know, get planning for my next one, which will be about double the length down south. So I liked it. I enjoyed the walk. It was challenging in the time frame that I was doing it, which I like. When I hike, I like to start in the morning and I like to finish in the evening. My struggle is that I probably don't take a big break in the middle. I just keep walking. I like to use the whole day. Looking forward to the future walks that I'm doing, I don't want to do the 45s. I would like to be in the 20s, 30 at the most. So I may have to plan it to then have an hour break in the middle, just to split it up so I can still finish at the dusk time, start in the dawn, you know, so it still fills up the day, but I have a bit of a gap in the middle with less kilometers, so my feet survive a bit easier. So yeah, so looking back, you know, I enjoyed it. It was challenging. I enjoyed the walk, and you know, as I say, thinking on it has got me excited to do more, so it wasn't bad. Not every step was great. Lots of steps are really bad, but overall I enjoyed the walk, so it's worth doing. The first and last day aren't the best because you're in town for a fair chunk of those 2 days, but the rest of it you are quite isolated and alone for quite a lot of the time, and the scenery does change quite drastically from rainforest to quite arid, scrubby land as you get a bit further south. So it was enjoyable. It's a good attainable walk, and yeah, if you have a chance, have a go. Easy to access. You can catch the train to either end and walk back to your start position. It's easy, so it's quite an accessible track and worth the effort. So anyway, I'll catch you later.